up, I knew that what they told you in school about Thanksgiving wasn't true. That's not the true story. The true story behind Thanksgiving was, after every killing of a whole village, these European settlers celebrated it, and they called it Thanksgiving. But it wasn't until Abraham Lincoln became president that it became an official holiday.
He ordered 38 Dakota men to be hung for war crimes
after the sacred holiday Christmas.
We take this time to remember our elders who lost their lives due to what really happened. Usually my mom makes a Native American dish for us and we pray.
Growing up, I would be kind of annoyed that they didn't know what actually happened on Thanksgiving and that they're actually celebrating the deaths of many people and many tribes that were lost.
Whether it's to give thanks or to be with your family, you should learn how the holiday was established in the first place.
I'm thankful for being born indigenous to this continent.
I'm thankful that I still have my culture.
I'm thankful that my elders kept our culture alive all these years.
I'm thankful to be indigenous, resilient, and alive.
I'm thankful for us all to be able to stand together, stand strong, and stand as one.
Happy Thanksgiving, America.
All right, Shalom. This is Harawan Ban Yasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp. When I say Kal Halayim, La Yahweh, Ba Hashem Yahweh Shai, Ba Hashem Harakah Kodash, Ma'amaf. Double honor to the elder apostles of GMS and the elders. Shalom to you, Akim, and Akwatim, and children that believe in sincerity and truth around the four corners of the earth. Only going to this lesson, dealing with this whole folly day that all these jakes are celebrating around this time of year, that they call Thanksgiving. You know, everybody knows the backstory, but a lot of them still celebrate it. They know about the slaughter of the Native American Indians, you know, but there's been some lies that were told, some fables mixed in there. They'll say things like the Native Americans, which were the Gadites, which are the Gadites today, that they were friends with Esau when they came over here. Well, sometimes they were, but most of the time they were at war, and they were getting killed and slaughtered and tricked and lied to. And contracts that were put in place, Esau brought their paperwork. That was like their form of computers back then, of technology. They would bring their paperwork, piles of it, and contracts that they knew our people couldn't read their language, you know, their English. So they would trick our people with the what we call fine print, even like they do today. All right, so they would sign a treaty with the Native American Indians, and then they would break that treaty. They would show up to meet them for peace, and instead they would slaughter them. All right. So I want to get into this story. I'll read this article. And it says here, as you see in the background, I'm going to put it as a screenshot. It says, Indian land for sale. Indian land for sale, man. All right. So you had a lot of those Edomites that were running over here to the Americas that was called the New World, looking for gold, looking for land and other resources and slaves. All right. For Spain and for England. They were all setting up, sending people out to explore and take over these areas and to pillage. Saying, hey man, you go do what the hell you want over there. Just bring back the gold and the resources to Spain or to whoever. But in return, they get to find, look, check it out. It says, Indian land for sale. How you gonna tell somebody, you know? You see how the mind of these devils think? Indian land for sale. It's crazy, man. Get a home of your own. See, that was incentivizing or enticing to these Edomites, because they were like vagabonds over there in Europe. Their resources were running low. All right, because the super rich, with were consuming everything. All right. So they had a lack of minerals. So what happened was they sent people out to gain the riches of the world, even as they do today with America, going out, taking all the resources of the earth, really giving it right over to Europe. It says, get a home of your own, easy payments, perfect title, possession within 30 days. Look at that. They made it sweet. Just like they'll put out a deal, say, so-called Negro ears for sale. You know, they a reward for it. They would give incentives for that, man. And you get hunted down, man. The Edomites were poor. The Lord said they were cavemen. Came out of the caves of Petra. All right. It says, fine lands in the west, irrigated, irrigable, grazing, agricultural, dry farming. It says in 1910, the Department of the Interior sold under sealed bids allotted Indian land as follows. And that's how they started handing out Native American land to the Edomites. All right. So now let's go here. Let's read this article about the what you would call the Pequot Indians. All right, Pequot. Pequot. This is the Pequot are Native American people in Connecticut. All right, the Pequot. The modern Pequot are members of the federally recognized Mashantucket Pequot tribe. Four other state recognized groups in Connecticut, including the Eastern Pequot Tribal Nation, or the Brother Town Indians of Wisconsin. They historically spoke Pequot, all right, a dialect of Mohegan Pequot language. So you ever heard of the last of the Mohegans? You know, they're a famous tribe, right? So it says here, the Pequot and the Mohegan were formerly a single group, but the Mohegans split off in the 17th century as the Pequot came to control much of Connecticut. Simmering tensions with the New England colonies led to the Pequot War of 1634 and 1638. That's where they get their Thanksgiving Day from. All right, there was simmering tensions between the New England colonies and the Pequot Gadites. So now let's get into the story of the massacre that happened. All right. It says here, let me look up the word massacre. It says a massacre is a slaughter, murder, butcher. You see that? So they were murdering, they were slaughtering and butchering our people. All right. So that's why they call it Thanksgiving Day Massacre or slaughter. Celebrating the day of slaughter. That's what they're doing. With paganism, pagan customs. All right. So let me read this. I want to read this article first. It says here, 1637, Pequot Massacre, the real story of the annual U.S. Thanksgiving. All right, man, it comes around yearly. It says here, most of us associate the holiday with happy pilgrims. That's how they paint it. They put it all over the place when you're a child. You see some Edomites coming over here looking happy. It's crazy, right? Witchcraft, man. They deceived us. That's why the Lord called them what? The devil. They're the father of lies. They the ones that wrote the lies and pushed the lies on the people. Most of us associate the holiday, which is a folly day. It's not. It's a separated day unto these pagans. They associate it with happy pilgrims and Indians sitting down to a big feast. And that happened once. The story began in 1614 when a band of English explorers sailed home to England with a ship full of Pequot Indians. All right, bound for slavery. They left behind smallpox. It's deep, right? Which virtually wiped out those who had escaped. Crazy, man. But by the time the pilgrims arrived in Massachusetts Bay, they found only one living Pequot Indian, a man named Squanto, who had survived slavery in England and knew their language. He taught them to grow corn. He taught the English to grow corn and to fish and negotiate, and he negotiated a peace treaty between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag nation. At the end of their first year, the Pilgrims held a great feast honoring Squanto and the Wampanoags, all right? So they held a big feast honoring them for the peace treaties. It was really a setup. But as word spread in England about the paradise, so they looked at the New World or America as a paradise. to be found in the New World. Religious zealots called Puritans, which they were nothing but pagans, all right, pushing that that ideology of Christianity and Catholicism, really pushing pagan practices. Called Puritans, they began arriving by the boatload. And it was some huge boats. It was arriving by. They said, if you read a book called I read it a long time ago, called Finding Florida, and that'll give you the understanding of a lot that happened in Florida with the Seminole Indians, which would be the Reubenites, all right, and with the other Gadite tribes, and the Puerto Rican, the Ephraimites. So now where was I? It says here, finding no fences around the land. Right, if you read this book, it tells you in that book that Finding Florida, it tells you about when Esau was pulling up to the shores of America, the Gadites would smell them miles away. They stink that bad. And they had pigs all on their boats because they would, Esau had pigs, but they had pigs swine that they would eat on their boat because they said it was like a fungus. They duplicated fast on the boat and they would eat them on the way over here. All right. And it would stink. So it says here, finding no fences around the land, they considered it to be in the public domain. They were saying the land, America should have had fences around it, and they would have left the Gadites alone. It's crazy, right? So they called it public. It says, joined by other British settlers, they seized land, capturing strong young natives for slaves, man, and killing the rest. But the Pequot nation had not agreed to the peace treaty. Squanto had negotiated, and they fought back. The Pequot was one of the bloodiest Indian wars ever fought. The Pequot War. All right, the Pequot War was one of the bloodiest Indian wars ever fought. And the scriptures say all the wars in the past were fought with blood and garments rolled in, loud noise and garments rolled in blood. All right, but this final war is going to be with what? Burning and fuel of fire, nuclear war. It's a different type of war now. All right. Back then it was just straight up. They was even going as far as the Gadites, when they saw Esau pulling their horses off of the boats to put them onto the soils of America. It was, what they called the New World at that time. The Gadites would meet them at the border and shoot them with fish bones, sharpened fish bones with poison on the tips, killing the horses and a lot of those Edomites. It's crazy, right? So now it says here, in 1637, near present day Groton, Connecticut, over 700 men, women, and children of the Pequot tribe had gathered for their annual Green Corn Festival, which was their Thanksgiving celebration. They were saying they were thankful for the corn and the green corn harvest. All right. which a lot of those Gadites were going off. You know, they was moving into mysticism, paganism as well, idolatry. But some of them still kept a lot of the practices that were from the land of Israel. All right. But now I'm keep reading. It says this was their Thanksgiving celebration, the Green Corn Festival in 1637. 700 Native Americans or Gadites met up to celebrate this. In the pre-dawn hours, or in the early morning, the sleeping Gadites were surrounded. See that? Caught them, man. Caught them sleeping. They were surrounded by English and Dutch mercenaries who ordered them to come outside, man. So they was in some big house setup, and they were all resting. And then they got besieged. They got surrounded by Esau. Those who came out, scripture say, never trust thine enemy. Those who came out were shot or clubbed to death, while the terrified women and children who huddled inside the long house were burned alive. Damn, man. The next day, the governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony declared, the next day, the governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, he declared a day of Thanksgiving because 700 unarmed men, women, and children had been murdered. So they were thankful for that. So when people celebrate this day, this is what they're celebrating. They still gonna do it. It says, cheered by their victory, the brave colonists means taking over colonies, and their Gadite or Native American allies attacked village after village. Women and children over 14 were sold into slavery, right? You had some jakes that were selling out, of course. They were following after Esau. That's why the Lord said that the lust of their father they shall do. Their authority became Esau. He said he was a murderer from the beginning. All right. Women and children over 14 were sold into slavery, while the rest were murdered. Boats loaded with as many as 500 slaves regularly left the ports of New England. Bounties were paid for Native American scalps to encourage as many deaths as possible. They said having statues of Andrew Jackson and George Washington, having statues of them all throughout America, you know, it's like having statues of Jeffrey Dahmer up, basically. I don't know, who was that? They said Andrew Jackson, or was it George Washington? One of them had fake teeth in his mouth, and it would be slaves. They would take the teeth of slaves, jakes, and put them in his mouth. All right. It says, following an especially successful raid against the Pequot in what is now Stamford, Connecticut, the churches, my grandfather was, on my mother's side, was in Connecticut. You know, the churches announced a second day of Thanksgiving to celebrate victory over the heathen savages. That's what they called us. What they called the Gadites. Heathen savages, man. And the Seminole tribes. During the feasting, the hacking off heads of natives were the hacked off heads, like they cut the heads off of the Native Americans, were kicked through the streets like soccer balls during the feast, man. While they was eating, they would get up and kick the heads of the Gadites around like soccer balls. Even the friendly Wampanoag did not escape the madness, even the one that made peace with them. Their chief was beheaded and his head impaled on a pole in the Plymouth, Massachusetts, where it remained on display for 24 years. Whew. They left it out there for 24 years, man. The killings became more and more frenzied, with days of Thanksgiving feasts being held after each successful massacre. Every time they would kill and slaughter, they would have another Thanksgiving meal. George Washington, finally suggested that only one day of the Thanksgiving per year. So like George Washington, that Edomite, finally suggested that only one day of Thanksgiving per year be set aside instead of celebrating each and every massacre. So they wanted to set up one day a year instead of like every time they would do it, slaughter. Anytime they would slaughter us, they would have a meal, Thanksgiving meal to the devil, basically. That's what they serve. It says here, later, Abraham Lincoln decreed Thanksgiving Day to be a legal national holiday. See, that's when Abraham Lincoln did it. He the one that Abraham Lincoln declared it. Excuse me. Abraham Lincoln, he declared it a national holiday. See that? During the Civil War. On the same day, he ordered troops to march against the starving Sioux Indians in Minnesota. Bunch of devils, man. So this is what our people celebrating right here. This story doesn't have quite the same fuzzy feelings associated with it as the ones we were told, where the Indians and the Pilgrims are all sitting down together at the big feast. But we need to learn our true history so it won't ever be repeated. All right, so yeah, man. It's deep. Let's get some scriptures. I'm going to read this real quick. It says, most of our modern, or America's, and around the world, most of their modern holidays, like Christmas and Easter, are a combination of pagan customs, man. They try to say Christian customs, but you know. Thanksgiving, on the other hand, doesn't have as much biblical influence, right? They try to tie the Bible in with Christmas and Easter and all that. You know, it's really supposed to be the Passover, and the Lord's birthday is really in the spring, not winter. But Thanksgiving is just like something they made up off of slaughtering and killing people, man. And Abraham Lincoln made it a holiday after George Washington said it should be held once a year instead of every time they slaughter. All right, it says, while Thanksgiving is not tied to any one specific religion, its traditions are quite similar to a number of ancient pagan harvest celebrations. For example, in ancient Rome, they celebrated the holiday of Cerealia, which honored the harvest goddess or idol of grain called Ceres. There, there are around 100 different harvest gods or idols from Greek and Roman culture, so it's clear that celebrating the harvest season was a key feature of their pagan spiritual beliefs. Crazy, man. All right, so all right, so let's read the scriptures. This is Psalms 124. I'm gonna start from 1, because Esau is that fowler. All right, Fowler, fowler. Meaning the word fowler means somebody that catches, set traps for birds, for fowl, for game. They're that hunter. All right. Psalms 124 and 1. If it had not been for Yahweh, who was on our side, now may Israel say, if it had not been Yahweh, who was on our side, when men rose up against us, then they had swallowed us up quick when their wrath was kindled against us, man. See, the Lord wasn't with us. That's the only reason it happened. You know, our people were being wicked. You know, so this was part of the judgment. All right. And the Lord was giving everything over to Esau, according to Job 9:24. And Deuteronomy 28, the curses, they fell on the Gadites as well. All right, so verse 4. Then the waters had overwhelmed us. The stream had gone over our soul. That's talking about the flood of Esau, which means like scourge, or a consistent attack from these devils. All right, they deceivers, murderers. Then the proud waters had gone over my soul. The proud, talking about Esau. The proud nations. Blessed be Yahweh, who have not given us as a prey to their teeth. See, now today the Lord is not giving his elect of Israel as a prey to their teeth. The Lord has brought us back together, not in the same room, but in the same spirit. The spirit of Yahushua. He's bringing the elect, the two sides back together again, the two witnesses, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. But the glue that's bringing us together is the spirit of the Lord's truth. All right, spirit of Yahushua. So our soul is escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowlers, man. The snare is broken and we are escaped. Our help is in the name of Yahweh, who made heaven and earth. So I want to start off with that, because Scripture said, if the Lord be with us, who can be against us? So that just shows that the Lord wasn't with us at that time. All right, this is Zechariah 2 and 8. 2 and 7. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. You see that? And Zion really represented the southern kingdom. But Zion today is the elect, the government of Israel. All right, the foundation. So that's the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom spiritually today. All right, and we dwelling with the daughter of Babylon, America. For thus saith Yahweh of hosts, of armies, after the glory hath he sent me unto the nations, which spoiled you. See that? For he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye, man. See, the Lord remembers them spoiling us and taking everything from us. And it's going to be a great victory that he's going to give our people over these nations, man, that we can't even imagine. So they've touched the apple of the Lord's eye. And the Lord didn't forget that, man. Shit, they won't let nobody forget it anyway. They celebrate it every year. Thanksgiving and shit. Everybody sit around the table. It's the time to get up with family. That's what Jake say. It's just a time where you can be off work, see. There you go, man. You see, they said, hey, Indian land for sale. I mean, they just taking it. They're going to kill them and take it. For sale means they got to buy it from England, Britain, or Spain. They would have to pay them, you know, for cheap money. Micah 2:1. Woe to them that devise iniquity. See, they devised it. They created plans and plotted against Jake. All right, they devise wickedness. All right, they make it their vice. They devise wickedness and work evil upon their beds, man. All right? They come up with these evil plans. When the morning is light, see, they caught them Gadites early in the morning. While they were resting, 700 of them. Before, they said pre-dawn, so it was real early in the morning. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And this is what they chose to do with it. Murder, rob, steal, and kill, rape and pillage, kicking heads up the street. They said heads shall roll. Playing soccer, that was, see. Let me just read. It says, I don't really like talking about this Thanksgiving Day bullshit, man. Because it's frustrating. You know what I'm saying? This one right here. Verse 2. And they coveted fields. So they took fields, man. Covet just means being greedy. All right. They coveted fields and take them by violence. See? Indian land for sale. So they took all that land by violence. All right. Now it says here, they take them by violence and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his household, even a man and his heritage, man. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, behold, against this family do I devise an evil. See, the Lord devised an evil against them. They devised the evil against us. So Yahweh has devised the evil against them. All right, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. From which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. All right. I was also talking about Jake's. But, you know, this time it's going to play out with Esau. Where was it at? Let me get this. Because it's part of the curses. Them coming over here doing that to the Native Americans. All right. Deuteronomy 28:28. Yahweh shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. Right? Our people were smitten with blindness. Over there, 90% butt naked. Calling themselves by these different tribal names, killing each other, idol worship, totem poles, all this weird shit that they got from the Assyrian Empire, really. Because the scriptures speak of in the Apocrypha about the northern tribes coming over here prior to the so-called Negroes. All right, to keep the customs they couldn't keep under the Assyrians. All right. Now that happened later, around the 3rd century AD, where they said Ephraim was the tribe that led the northern tribes over here to what was called the New World. So now, and that's in 2nd Ezra chapter 13. All right. So it says here, verse 29. So they were smitten with that madness. And thou shalt grope at noonday. You see, this ain't just talking about slavery on Judah, and Benjamin and Levi. You know, this hell was brought upon the northern tribes as well. All right. And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness. So they reaching, looking for safety in wickedness, man. Jake is blind. So even now, today, when all hell break loose, Jake is looking for safety or something to lean on, or a way out through wickedness. All right, through idolatry. All right, so they groping in the noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. That's the curses that was on our people, man, because we wouldn't listen. We're like, why did this happen? Why did the Lord let this happen? Because our people wouldn't listen, man. All right, it's all part of the Lord's plan. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Esau got their blessing first, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. This is how it goes. So this is what Esau decided to do with their blessing, is to rob, steal, and kill, and use their hatred against their brother Jacob. And the scriptures say that they have kept their anger forever, ever since they lost their birthright. And he said he was going to kill Jacob. Esau said that in their heart. It says, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. So that's not just on the southern kingdom, but the northern kingdom as well. Now they've taken all the Gadites and put them in reservations because just to feed them alcoholism, right? And give them poor living conditions and breaking all the treaties so they can take over more lands and lay down railroads. It says, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. That's slavery. Or you have a beautiful setup. You know, Northern Kingdom, they set things up beautifully, man. The flowers and all that. Agriculture. Next thing you know, Esau show up and just destroy it. And take all of it, burn down the teepees and everything, man. Burn the villages. In all the movies, you see them burning them. Burning the villages, killing. Especially, what's that movie, Wounded Knee. Bury me at Wounded Knee. You can watch that movie on Netflix or, whatever movie site you can see. It's called Bury Me at Wounded Knee. And in that movie, you'll see how they established what's today called their medicines. They used to give them this red bottle with some basically poison in it and say, hey, this will fix everything. So they said they had a stomach ache, a backache, they gave them that headache, they gave them that coughing, here, take this. They wouldn't let them get the herbs of the land. It says here, in the vineyard, and shall not gather the grapes thereof. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes. Where they killed the buffalo, the ox, you know. All right, so it says, thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. Thy sons and daughters shall be given unto another people. That other people was Esau. And thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long. And that happened to us, man. Southern Kingdom in slavery, they would sell off our children and our family members, brothers, sisters, aunts, mothers, children, cousins, and they would sell them off into slavery, hardcore slavery. And you had to watch and never see them again as they getting carted off with some dirty, filthy Edomites. And you would never see that person again. There was no internet. That's it, man. See you next lifetime. That's what they would do. And even the Native Americans, they would get old, you know, old, wise Indians, you know how they, chiefs, and they would just watch as their families would get slaughtered. I did a lesson a while back. I forgot this Gadite's name. If anybody leave it in the comment board that follow this channel, I did a lesson a while back. I forgot the Gadite's name. But they took him, I think it was George Washington. Somebody took him and put him in Carolina in a prison. And they would let him walk out to the water and then and put him back in his prison the rest of his life till he died. Caught pneumonia or something like that. So they watched him live that way. Some Edomites respected him as a warrior, but the others would mock him and say, look, this is the rest of his life, a broken warrior. And as he grew old, he would just watch his family members and his people fade away. That's why the Lord said that. That was a curse on us. But now in the kingdom, we're going to watch our people increase. And it says what? And thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long. And there shall be no might in thy hand, man. We ain't have no might, no way to win over these devils. Each time, the Lord would increase Esau, because it was the Father's will to bring this nation against us, just like the Lord brought up Nebuchadnezzar, Cyrus the Great, you know, Pharaoh. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat it up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed all the day, crushed away. Right, man. What was that? There's another one I was looking at earlier. All right, let me read this. It says, Thanksgiving is a time for celebration, good food, and giving thanks. So as we gather with family, as they gather with family, crush unworldly amounts of stuffing, and enjoy football. Remember that? They were kicking heads around. Football games, and the crisp autumn air, let's also acknowledge the real history of the holiday, and practice gratitude. Anyway, this year, this year they're celebrating Thanksgiving and also truth giving, a concept coined by indigenous activist Christine Nobis to dismantle common misunderstandings about Thanksgiving with, well, the truth. So in the name of truth giving, here's the true history of this holiday. It says, we'd like to thank Illuminative. You can go on their website. They actually, Illuminative also too is a company that's fighting against the, kind of like on Avatar, man. It's like a story of Esau showing up with all the machines and taking over the land, tearing down the trees to build oil reserves or to sell the lumber. They're going through that in Alaska right now. All right. So Illuminative is a company that's set up by the Native Americans to be able to fight that, combat it socially. So check this out. That's what I wanted to read. What's the real story of Thanksgiving? The Pilgrims, which were Edomites, had hardly explored the shores of Cape Cod for 4 days before they had robbed the graves of my ancestors and stolen their corn and beans. So it ain't been 4 days and they was already killing them, the Wampanoag people. They was already killing them before they made the treaty with them. All right, so now let's keep going. It says, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest, Deuteronomy 28:33. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat it up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed all the way, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. All right, and they mad today, man. You know, Jake is mad. It's just still in our spirit what Esau did to our people. All right. This is Genesis 49:19. Gad, all right, the Gadites. It says, a troop shall overcome him. That's the Confederate armies. Like I said, Northern armies or whatever. A troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last, man. Right? So at the last, just like the Lord said about Benjamin, they shall raven as a wolf. The Jamaicans, they had the sugar mills and slavery. Esau set up their sugar mills, had them cooking that and boiling that hot sugar, melting jakes. You know, and the tribe of Benjamin, they were over there ravening as a wolf. It's what you would call the Maroons. You know, they were called the Maroons. So, and they held on to it. That's why they have songs of freedom and of fighting back against these heathens and redemption. So why? Because they know deep down in their spirit, the Lord's promise, man, we're going to overtake them at the last. All right? The Lord is going to give us that power. We can't do it on our own. The Lord said, wait for him till he rise up to the prey. All right, so I'm going to end it there, man. It's a few more, because when you go into this lesson topic with this Thanksgiving Day, it's so many stories to read about. So many Native Americans that became heroes in the time of oppression. You know, seeking to stand up for their people. But really, it was part of the curses in Deuteronomy 28. So I'm gonna end this one here, man, because I think I'm running out of memory space on my phone again. So I'm gonna end it here, and Yahweh Ratazab do another lesson on this topic today. All right, shalom.